Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
And you're very welcome along this Friday afternoon to Friday Night Racing, and we have a doozy lined up for you today. Johnny Ward, you're here. How are you?
How are you, Ger?
You're not the doozy, though. We've got Shark Hanlon with us as well. Shark, good afternoon to you. How are you?
How are we all doing? All good?
Yeah, we're good. How are you getting on?
Super, boy.
Listen, I've got to start, right? I know everybody wants me to ask you about Sky Ace and whether or not he's going to win tomorrow, but the single most important question that when I said you were coming on the show was, how did you get the nickname?
Got it from hurling years ago.
Of course.
I wasn't much good now. I was more awkward than good. And I got it from, we were playing in a match one night, and Paddy Mullens, he hurled with Kilkenny years ago, was over the other team. And a couple of balls came in early, and I was lucky enough, I caught him and thrown him out to lads. And he came in across the field, and he said to the lad that was marking me, he said, "Will you cut the head off that lad?" He said, "That Shark," he said, "or we all can go home." And from that day, my own parish, they called me the Shark, and I'm still called Shark.
Very good, very good. Who do you hurl for? What was the club?
Bar Rangers, Pottstown, Kilkenny.
Right, okay. And so when he said cut the head off you, I don't imagine any man in the world would have been too eager to volunteer. You're a big man, 6'5", 6'6", I think?
6'6", yeah. They'd have a job to get to me head.
And this is pre-helmets as well, so, you'd want to be pretty brave, I'd say, as a fullback to decide to obey the instructions of the trainer.
Well, you'd want to do the job right the first time, because you mightn't get the second chance.
The joys of club hurling.
Yeah, look, it's great. And I mean, back in the day, Kilkenny club hurling too, there was no quarter asked nor given. It's a cliche, no, it's true.
Not at that time.
Listen, the Kilkenny aspect of this is also really interesting because you're pretty close to the Mullens, like geographically as well as from a relationship perspective. Isn't that right?
Yeah, Paddy Mullens only came from up the road for me, and Margaret Mullens is training just down the road for me and Tom, and we have Willie over at the other side. I'm in between the whole lot of them, so I am. And Tony is down in Gordon then, which wouldn't be that far away either. So it's a neat little thing around here. So there's a lot of horses around this area.
We've spoken before about this on the show, and Willie McCreary reckons there's something about the limestone in the soil in Kildare that is so good for the flat horses, and that's one of the reasons why around the Curragh the horses are stronger. It's kind of it's in the environment. What's in the environment in that part of Kilkenny that has produced some of the greatest training performances that we've ever seen?
Good trainers. Listen, I don't know. I suppose we're lucky to have Willie there so near to us, and he has the good customers and the good clients and the good horses. And you have Jim Boulder only up the road from us. Listen, everyone have their own way of doing things, and it seems to be working for everyone around this area.
How much did you learn when you were? Because I think you're from a cattle farming stock. That would have been your family's heritage.
Yeah, I was dealing in cattle all my life, so I always said I was a livestock agent. I wasn't a cattle dealer, but some people disagreed with that. But listen, we had a lot of good days at that as well. But when the foot and mouth came into Ireland years ago, it kind of slowed down the cattle business, and that's when I changed over. And I was living here so near Mullenses, and I knew all the Mullens, and I was involved in horses with Mullenses, and that's where it all started, really. We had a few horses. I remember the first horse we trained him out of on Dolan Fogarty's Gallop below. We were living up the road only from it, and we only had the one horse. And he went on and won for his Wolsey Lady was the horse's name. It was Tony Mullens was down to train it at the time, and I used to keep her below, and then we used to bring her up to Tony's when she was entered or whatever the case may be.
Right. So that was you were actually training away before you even ended up getting your licence.
Well, we had listen, I was there with Tony in the yard and that for years, and Tony's a very good trainer. And
sorry to interrupt. Did you go into Tony's with the intention, like, this is really what I want to do? The cattle's great and all, but actually, I want to be a trainer.
No, I definitely didn't. I went in with the intention. The cattle business at the time when the foot and mouth came in was slowed down, and I said in a year's time when it picks back up, we'll go back ahead again. But I got the hang of it, and I suppose Peter Daly was there at the time as well, and Tony was having a lot of winners at that stage, and I got to enjoy the game. And then I met my partner Rachel, and she was involved in the horses as well, and it all started really from there.
Are there many comparisons between the people you meet in racing and cattle dealing?
Paddy Mullens said years ago, and I'll never forget it, he said, anyone that can judge a bullock will judge a horse. And it always stuck in the back of my mind. And like a lot of cattle dealers have horses or are involved in horses and yours like that. It's a completely different game. But they're the same kind of people. They're good, fun people.
That's interesting. Why did he say that? You know, because obviously he would have been judged to have a brilliant innate understanding of a horse physically. Is there a kind of a comparable thing there that like the good people can do it in both because it's the same kind of process, or?
Well, I suppose, listen, I was brought up in cattle, and there's a big difference in good cattle, middling cattle, and bad cattle. And it's the very same with horses. There's a big difference in the makes of horses and the shapes of horses. And you wouldn't be long when I was at the cattle for years and years. And I suppose you learn. I learned from the cattle. And I remember when Paddy Mullens, he was a great man. He was the best man in Ireland for me. He was, because I learned a lot of little things off him, just small little things, but were very important. And if you listen, you'll always learn. And I tried to do that when I was with Paddy, and he had a great saying that if a horse was a box walker or a crib biter or anything like that, and I said, geez, that lad is biting the door. He says, whatever he does in his own time is his own business. He never mind them kind of things, and he was probably right.
You and Paddy Mullens must genuinely be the most original odd couple in racing.
Yeah, we were, but sure, listen, we got on well.
And because he was like a man that, could you have gotten a better mentor in the sense of what he said so little, but what he said was probably really worth listening to?
If you were good enough to listen, you'd learn a lot, and that's the reason that Willie and Tony and Tom are all so good, because they listened.
And come here, tell me, how did he become your mentor? Were you just hanging out?
I was only a young lad at the time, and I used to go up to the yard at that time, maybe when he was feeding the horses at 8 o'clock at night. He'd be walking around the yard, and I'd go up in that time there, and I'd meet him, and he just was a great man, and a great man with horses. And it proved for all his sons to come out the way they all train and the way they look at horses different than everyone else. It's
country life where it's an open yard. You're a neighbour, you rock up as a kid, and you're just chatting to him as he's going around feeding the horses, and that's it. You weren't actually working for him or doing any of that? No,
I wasn't working for him. Just before I even went down to Tony's, that I was up in Paddy's, you know, and we're all neighbours. So it was all good. Everything was good. And in my opinion, Paddy Mullens was one of the best.
Well, it's a pretty amazing thing to have now in retrospect, when you end up being a trainer, that you have this memory of being able to pick the brain of one of the great Irish horsemen.
Yeah, it was a big thing. And it was great to be living so near him that we could do that. You know, it was great to be living only down the road from, and that I was lucky enough to be living down the road that he didn't mind us going in and out and whatever. You know?
And as a matter of interest, would you have been one of those kids who was like, and tell me this, would you have been pestering him for information, or would you have been quiet? And
you know, when you're a young lad, everyone opens their mouth too much, and I was probably one of them as well.
Well, they're the best, aren't they? It turns out in retrospect you were asking questions that probably nobody else was thinking to ask.
Yeah, well, and at the time I wasn't thinking of training horse or anything, but just different comments that he made, I always listened to him.
Yeah, that is...
The time as well, Ger, like Char, could you describe to maybe younger people who wouldn't, and it's maybe you're too young yourself, but Paddy was so far ahead of his time as well, and at a time when Ireland would have been struggling kind of economically, and obviously was a lightweight taking on British horses in Cheltenham, but he was just, he was probably a genius really, like I suppose a bit like Vincent O'Brien, just thought outside the box. What made him special?
Listen, Paddy Mullens had a gallop and it was only a furlong round. Like, we see all the gallops today that everything is after improving probably so much. If Paddy Mullens had the gallops that we had today, he would knock the place asunder, so he would. Like, his gallop at that time was only a furlong around, a little furlong gallop around, and look what winners he trained off it. Like, you don't have to have these half-mile gallops or 2 mile gallops, uphill gallop. He was able to do it in his backyard in an acre of land.
It is actually, I remember, Gerard, when we spoke to Joseph O'Brien and probably Dunick as well about this, that like where Joseph trains and where, Aidan trains in Ballydoyle, they're totally different, and it's kind of making the best of what you have, and you can get a horse fit, I suppose, in many ways.
You can get a fit, like my gallop here is only 2 furlongs round, and you get your horse fit here. I'm lucky enough again that I'm here because Dunninga Gallops is here beside me, and it's a great gallop, and you just have to know how to ride it, and all my riders know how to ride it. But it's a mile and 2 around, and I can do it, all the slow work on my own gallop, and twice a week then I go up to Dunninga. We trot the horses up the road. It's only a stone's throw up the road, and I'm just lucky to have it there as well. And that's halfway between Paddy Mullens and mine. I'd be only a mile from Paddy, or less than a mile after.
That is really interesting. The importance of the facilities obviously helps as well in terms of you getting started. I want to ask you about the gallops in a moment and when you got your own, but before that, just to go back to the judging of the animals, because this is kind of the secret language that those of us who don't know how to do it or even what you're looking for, and it's really fascinating as a result of that, because like we're all looking at horses and you're looking at a horse and you're seeing something completely different from what we're seeing. So when did you realise that you could translate? I mean, obviously you were the line, if you can judge a bullock, you can judge a horse. But when did you realise that you could actually look at horses and that there was a transferable skill from the 10,000 hours you'd done as a livestock agent?
Listen, probably when you're looking at horses, as long as I am now, you learn something every day. But another thing that Paddy Mullens said years ago, we're going back to him again, is that he said, if a horse can't walk, he can't run. And I always kept that in the back of my mind, a good walking horse. And he's very right about this, because a good walking horse, 9 times out of 10, a good walking horse is a nice horse and he can go do the job. But that's one thing that when I'm buying a horse, I like a horse that can walk. If I'm above in the Derry's sale or a Land Rover sale, I like a horse that can walk. And if they can't walk, he wouldn't be for me.
When you say can walk, you're looking for the form of the walk and
just the way that he moves, and the way that his hind leg should be able to pass his front leg every time.
Is body shape important?
Not really. A good walker is more important than any bad body shape in my knee. Now, listen, when you're buying a horse back at the knee, for instance, if his knee is back a bit, you have a bigger chance that that horse will break down. If you buy a horse forward to the knee, you have a bigger chance that he won't break down. And just a horse that's back in the knee puts an awful lot of pressure on the tendons. And if he walks a bit crooked, you end up with problems.
So it's relatively straightforward in terms of how you would assess these horses.
Yeah, it's just straightforward. A good walking horse, a horse that's not back in the knee, and I love a horse with a nice head. No, it might make no difference, but I like a horse with a nice head.
What's a nice head?
That was a big Vincent O'Brien thing as well, wasn't it?
What does that mean?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Vincent O'Brien loved a horse with a nice head. If you look at 2 different horses, 3 different horses side by side, they could have 3 different heads. They're 3 different. They're longer. They're wider between the eyes. They're, just a horse with a nice head. I like.
Obviously, it's worked out.
Yeah, I tell you, I kind of goes to these sales and I buy a lot of horses at small money, from $1,000 to 10 grand. And like, if only half of them work out, you're absolutely flying. You know, like I went to Newmarket to Newmarket there, and I bought a horse for $4,000, and he's after winning the bumper and won a maiden hurl. So like, different horses are different things, but you have your own way of picking. Everyone have their own way of picking horses. If there didn't, there'd be no horses sold in the country, and the nicest horses will all make too much. But everyone have their own way of picking horses, and it's good for everyone.
Well, that's the mystery of the whole thing, and that's why it's been so great over the last while, teasing out these conversations and seeing what everybody else's strategy is, because you know, that insight is that you're all looking at the same horse and you're all seeing different things, and actually everybody can get some bit of success with their own strategy. That's why it's such a great sport.
And everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, and anyone that you meet that say that, I bought this, and we all can buy horses, and we'll all buy bad horses, and we'll all buy good horses, but the most important thing is to buy the most of them good anyway.
Yeah.
The other thing to mention, Ger, is that just with the pandemic and with kind of prize money so bad in Britain at the moment, for that type of horse you're talking about, Shark, like you actually could, like there's so many horses now selling for that type of money, like 5 figures or less, we'll say, and you can get a bargain.
There's bargains out there to be bought. There's always bargains to be bought. But I miss no sale. I go to every sale. Any sale that's on in England, or I go to Mod, and I go through all the horses, and you pick out maybe, there could be 300 horses in a sale, and you'll only pick out 10 or 12 that you'd like. And if you could buy 1 or 2 of them or 3 of them, then you're flying. You know, but like, anyone can buy these horses that are after winning pint to pints or winning bumpers and giving 250 or 300,000 for horses. And because they're ready-made horses, they're ready to go, you know, they can run. So anyone can buy them. You know, I could send out my mother and she'd be able to buy them kind of horses. You know, but to buy a cheaper horse and try and get him to do a trick for you, I enjoy it. I just enjoy it so much towards Antons, I do. And like, I'd love to have the owners to give the 250 and 300,000 for these horses, right? But I haven't got them, so we have to work with what we have.
Again, to go back to it, it obviously is a strategy that's worked really well for you. To go back to the question I was going to ask about when you actually managed to get your own gallops, because I presume that's a big moment where, you know, you've committed to becoming a trainer and things are working out. You begin to get the facilities to go with the talent that you've shown. What was that? Was it an important moment? A staging post?
It was a very big moment for me, because I was turning from a cattle dealer to a horse trainer, and we had very little money, and we were going to try and set up a business that cost a lot of money. And I'll tell you a good little story about one of the first horses I had was a flat horse I bought in Newmarket for something like £1,500. And I brought him home, done a bit with him, and I ended up sending him to Derrywell for good money. And he put up the first 2 barns for me, that horse did. He put up the first 2 barns and put up a bit of a gallop for me.
Who was that, Shark?
A horse that I sold, Dermot Weld.
Did he run?
He went and won, I can't think of his name now, I'll think of it in a minute. He went and won in Galway, in the festival in Galway, and I bought him for 1,200 quid, and I got a good price off it, Dermot, for him. And he went and won for him first or second time out. I think of his name, but that was the first thing that got me going. They got a few quid in the kitty so that I could go put up a gallop. I put up 10 stables here in the front yard, and I put up a bit of a gallop out of that money. And then I got a couple of half shares of horses, and the first filly that we had was after getting us a few quid. And then I had a filly called Shamia, and I bought her for small money again. I bought her for, I think, $2,000, and she went and she was placed in a bumper first time out. And as a matter of fact, I have a picture here. Patrick Mullens' brother is a 7-pound claimer, and he won a bumper on her. And I sold her to Durkins in Dublin, and I got another bundle of money and I put more. Like every bit of money that you get, you put into the place. And I was lucky enough to have Rachel here with me. She's a good horsewoman. Her father is Ronnie O'Neill, that has the stands, that had Stowaway. And she knew a lot about horses. And I had her here, and there was only the two of us, and we had one lad working from Athlone here with us at the time. We had 6 or 7 horses. And it started right. We got a couple of winners, and then everything started. Luska lad came along there, and he was a great servant of mine. Western Leader was probably the best horse I've ever trained. He won his bumper for Barry Connell. I bought him, and Barry sent him to me. I knew Barry from Tony Mullens's, and he bought him off me, and he won for him in Limerick at Christmas. And I got a great relationship with Barry from that. And just these things, you have to, you take little steps at a time.
Like it's not as well as that, Shark. Every trainer will say he or she, you're always learning. But you and Rachel must have been learning on the job, like for your start as 2006, 2007, nearly 15 years at it now, and you're probably still like learning and honing your skills as you go along. Every
day you get up, you learn something. If you're willing to learn something every day you get up, you will learn something. But and you're learning every day. Horses are completely different. You could have one horse that wants to do a lot of galloping. You could have the next horse, and like a Sky Ace there, she don't need a lot of galloping. Just the more important to keep some horses fresh than others. So it's a great game, but it's a tough game. There's a lot of hours going to it. Like we start here in the morning at 6:30, and I'll guarantee you come in any even there at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. We're still out around the yard. We're looking at the horses, or we're up the field trying to do something, do a bit of fencing or something. Like it's like milking cows, as I just say. You're at it 24/7. It doesn't matter Saturday or Sunday. You're still there, and you have to keep your head. And if you don't keep your head down and keep ahead, the whole world gets away from you. You just have to stay ahead.
And on Sky Ace, obviously, who be a major part for debate. I'm just going back to not nearly 12 months ago now, but this time last summer when she was running Tipperary. I think racing was actually just back around that time, and
that's right, yeah.
I was doing the spotlight for the race and post, and it was a 3-mile maiden hurdle, and I was looking at it and I said, this is not a good race. And I looked at her and I said, when something looks too good to be true, it has to be too good to be true. She's down as having been sold for 600 quid after finishing place in 3 bumpers. She has lost a leg, cannot win. What happened after that?
Well, everyone must have thought the same thing. I'm lucky enough that I didn't think the same thing. She was after being placed in 2 races behind Diamond Dozen, which is a good filly of mine. That she's 6 or 7 races won and placed 6 or 7 times. And I went over to the sales in my head to buy this filly. And when I saw her, she was a little bit choke looking, but her legs were perfect. She had no tendon problem. She was after running on soft ground, which meant that her wind is okay. And we were going to take a gamble on her. Now, the Dubai's, I was after being on to Dubai's in Dubai, and I said, she's going over. And I said, I don't know what she's going to make. She could make $1,000 and she could make 20 grand. But we had a kind of price picked out in our own mind to pay for her. And we were just lucky. She fell through the ring. It just happened to fall through the ring. And like a lot of people look at it, listen, she's coming out of Willie Mullens. Willie Mullens wouldn't be selling her if she was any good.
Yeah.
And Willie Mullens has a lot of horses. And a lot of horses go through Willie Mullens' yard. But like, an odd horse can fall through. An odd horse can fall through. And I'm lucky enough that this one did.
How long did it take you to get the training that she needed into her so that you could see the improvement and the potential?
I had to go build her up first. She was weak of herself when she came to me, and I had to get a couple of months into her to give her a good do and that. And on my own gallop, she wasn't working well. But every time that I brought her away, she done a lovely bit of work. And she's still the same. Like, she's not the best work filly in the world. And if you with her, if you were depending on her bits of work at home, you wouldn't say she was a graded filly. But every time that I brought her away and went to the curl and that where she improved and improved and improved, and she is where she is now.
So she just gets bored around the place, is that it?
Yeah, she gets bored. Some horses just do their best work on the track, and she's one of those that does the best work on the track. Like the day I went to Tipperary first, it was over 3 mile, it was on soft ground, and we jumped her out the back of the field, and I said, let her run as well as she can. I said to Jodie, and he getting up on her, I said, I think the trip might catch you out. So I said, ride her to get the trip. And there was a horse at Gigginstown and a 1-2 or 1-3 horse. And I said, listen, we're not going to beat that. So just ride her to run well and we'll see what can happen. And the Gigginstown horse didn't perform on the day. And ended up then it was an ordinary race. I'd say if you went back through that race now, you'd nearly get a heart attack. I'd say, I don't know if any horse ever won out of the race, you know. And we were just very lucky that we made a bad race the first day with her.
And then, how does the rest of the improvement come about? And at what point do you think, actually, this is...
She started getting stronger and stronger. And she went to Gordon and she won. We went back to Tipperary one day on soft ground over longer trips as well. And we were very wrong to run her. The ground ended up there too soft on the day. It was after rain. And we probably shouldn't have ran her. But every other run that she has is good. You know, and the day she went to the north there, she was amazing. She came through. Jodie and herself gets on brilliant. He gives her great rides. He's never given her a bad ride, and he's a very good rider. But like she just kept improving and improving and improving. We went to Cheltenham. I knew when we were going to Cheltenham that the ground to be okay, but the trip was too short. But I had told the boys after she winning the graded race that listen, Cheltenham is bound now, so we're going to miss Leopardstown or Christmas, we're going to miss the big festival in January. But I said, we go straight to Cheltenham. And in fairness to the syndicate, the Honda, they've never said a word. They never said, oh, will you run her here, run her there. They have stuck behind me at all stage. That's a big help. When you're training horses and you're a lad trying to tell you you're going to run him here, run him there. It's hard. It's hard on the trainer. But these boys never interfered one time with me and let me do whatever I wanted myself. And when we gave her the break over Christmas, she got very strong again. And we went to Cheltenham. We knew the trip was too short. We knew the ground was lovely. But she ran a cracker. She came out of the pack there and ran on the whole way up the hill. And when she landed at the top of the hill, I said, at least she's handled the track now. And if we ever have to come back again, it'll be brilliant. So my aim the whole time was Fairyhouse, to the 2.5 mile in Fairyhouse. And when we got to Fairyhouse, then she went and done the job.
Well, the Fairyhouse thing, Ger, I don't know if you were aware of this, but I thought Shark, I think it was a Racing Post interview you gave, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. You said, I think she's a certainty and you can make what you like with that. And she was 8-1 that morning and you were calling her a certainty. And, you know, you can look like an absolute fool and plenty of people would have been willing to say what an idiot Shark Hanlon is. She only finished 4th and she only won. And it just, you came across very ballsy in the whole thing.
I had a lot of confidence in the filly going to Fairyhouse because we had ran again the most of them in Cheltenham, and we were giving them all £5 in Cheltenham, all the other fillies £5 in Cheltenham. And we had 2 new ones. We had one of Willie's and one of Henry de Bromhead's. And Henry de Bromhead's horse, I saw he was after taking her out the year before on soft ground, or on good ground. He said the ground was too quick. So when I saw the ground getting quicker, for me, it was going again his horse. If the rain came, I would have went for his horse, but I didn't. I went for my horse. And I just thought by her the couple of days there before Fairyhouse, she's just mirrors after improving a good bit again. And I knew if she improved, she had the £5 back on probably 6 of the horses in the race, and I left her there with a real chance.
When a plan gets executed like that and it comes off, is that the best? Is that the best part where it's like from months and months out, you're looking and seeing, if we do this and do this and do this and do this, it's going to end up here? Like, I'm sure there's been races where your horse wasn't the best horse in the race and you win, and there's a great surge from kind of pulling one over on everybody else because of whatever happens. But when a fully executed plan comes together like that, it must be amazing.
It's brilliant, and it gives you great confidence in doing a lot of things. Like our plan was 6 months earlier for Fairyhouse. Now, we didn't know if we'd win or lose or where we'd finish in Fairyhouse, but now we're going on to Punchestown there, and like, I know we're taking on the open mares, we'll say, but we're entitled to be there. She's entitled to be there. She's in great form, and she's done the job well. She's an improving mare. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought she won with a bit of hand in Fairyhouse. Like, when the other horse was getting to her, she was never getting past her. And Jodie was very good on her. So
you're giving her a good chance tomorrow then as well?
Yeah, I do give her a good chance. She's in great form again. We're down the road with her there this morning now, and she can back up the road bouncing again. She's in good form. I don't think they're running Fairyhouse. I know we're after going to Cheltenham, going to Fairyhouse, and now going to Punchestown. It's very hard on horses to do that. To do them 3 meetings, the only thing we missed was Liverpool, you know. But like, it's very, very hard to take on the 3 meetings and win in the 3, you know. But listen, we're there. We're there with a right chance. The mare's in serious form, so there's no reason that we wouldn't go.
It should be pointed out, Ger, that obviously Concertista, you know, who possibly could have won at Cheltenham or whatever, is in the race and will take a lot of beating. But other than that, I don't think you've much to be afraid of, Shark. And, you know, obviously the form, Galwa's winning so well yesterday as well. It's going to be a proper gallop, I think, which will suit, because you stay 3 miles, and definitely an each-way chance.
Definitely an each-way chance. And I think Joseph O'Brien's ran yesterday, so that'll hardly run. So we're back to 8 runners. And she runs well in a small field. As you said, the horse won yesterday, won't be 10 lengths. That was second to her in Fairyhouse, which is a big boost going into it. Yeah, listen, there's a lot of positives about it. Henry's horse is just, this week they seem to be just gone maybe over the top of small, but they're in probably a good while, and you'd be hoping that we'd beat him. Yeah, listen, we're going with a serious chance. We'd be very disappointed if we were out the first 3.
It's good. It's a great attitude to have, and it's I think, you know, as you said, you're there on merits, and why wouldn't you be excited about it? Just a reminder, of course, we're talking with Shark Hanlon. This is Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie, and the hashtag is every racing moment. I do want to talk to you about Rachel Blackmore and her success, because your name gets checked in all the origin stories about how Rachel has gone to being one of the best jockeys in the world at the moment, and your part in that story is not a small part. You were definitely one of her early supporters.
Yeah, Rachel started with us here, really. She rode her first winner, Pint to Pint for us. She rode her first bumper winner, her winner. You know, she was with me for many years there, and she was Pint to Pint first with us. And she's such a light girl. Like, she was always light. She could eat whatever she wanted, but she was always light and always going to be light. And in Pint to Pints, all the horses were carrying 12 stone. And she had 2 stone of lead. And like, if a horse made any kind of a mistake, she'd get the saddle up her bum and she'd be fired out over their head. And it was just, that was her body, you know, her light weight probably done that, you know. But I remember going Pint to Pint where one day, and she got a couple of bad falls. She was getting bad rides. She was getting the rides that no one wanted to ride. And Rachel is so gutsy and so good, she'd take Anton on. And it was that day we came home, and I discussed with my own Rachel here. And the next morning she came in and I said, what about turn? And she said, oh no. I said, why not? I said, we're coming into this time of the year, the summertime, the Pint to Pints are over. And as a matter of fact, they weren't fully over, and she had it in her mind she wanted to go win the ladies championship in the Pint to Pints. And this was what was holding her back more than that. And I said, you can go back Pint to Pint again after 6 months if you want it. I said, I'd like you to turn, and I promise you I'll support you all the way that I can. And I was lucky enough, I had owners here at the time, and they all supported her. Every one of them, like, they didn't mind at all, and they knew she was a good rider. And she, after a couple of months, she rode her first winner for me, and she never looked back. Her very first winner for me was on a horse called Stowe, Pearl and Thurles. This was the first day I ever met the girl. It was Davy Russell was after recommending her to me. She was working below on Pat Isles. She was in college and or she was in school and going to Pat Isles at the time. And she came and she wrote a winner for me. And that day she said to me, she said, "Hey, can I go down to work with you?" And I said, "You can." And only a couple of weeks later, she wrote a pint winner for me down beside herself in the Horse and Jockey. And so from that day on, then we're listen, she's like part of the family here. She's a great girl, and Brian Hayes and herself are a great couple.
Life works in strange ways, because like what Rachel Blackmore has done for racing, I think is really, you couldn't put a price on it. Yet, if you hadn't had that conversation with her, it might never have happened.
Yeah, well, listen, she was a great worker. She was a great worker. At that Rachel got, she made it herself now, because like her parents weren't really interested in horses that much. They definitely weren't interested in race horses. And I laughed at her mother. She's a great person, so she could, when she used to go pint to pint, she couldn't look at her riding, you know. And it was a great story, you know. But she had to do everything herself. She had to make herself. And she was the best worker I've ever had in my yard. And I'd tell her, take a fair one to be better than one. And another little story I'll tell you, and by this you'll understand what kind of a girl she was. I remember we going racing this time of year, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And we had horses out in the field and they had the rugs on them, but it was a blazing hot day. And we went to Ballinrobe, and she landed in Ballinrobe, and the first thing she said to me, she says, "Shark," she says, "the horse is up on the main road." She says, I passed by him, she says, and had the rugs on him, and she said, they were too warm, so she says, I went in and I took the rugs off him, and I left him inside the gate there. Like, no one would even think of doing that. The younger people today wouldn't dream of doing that, you know, but she had the brains to do that and to help me. And that's what she did. She was a big help to me all my life that she was here with me. She was a big factor in the yard. And I tell you, if she said something, the boys outside would jump. You know, she was after, when she rose her voice, she was after ride her voice, and when she rose it, the lads jumped her. But listen, she got it for herself.
And you say the brains as well. She's actually, like, I think that's a good point, because she's a very, very intelligent rider in a race.
She reads a race very well. I think there's no jockey in Ireland I can put my hand on that gets a horse to jump like she does. And, like, she reminds me of Paul Carberry, you know, years ago. He was just brilliant to get a horse to jump as well. And all horses relax for Paul. And they do the very same for Rachel.
Just before you go as well, there was one horse I wanted to ask you about, Hallowed Star, who ran on Tuesday. He was one of my big fancies of the week. And it was funny, like, when you back a horse and he's beaten and he's not placed, you're disappointed. But there was just something about the run, actually, that screamed, with the colours, maybe he'll be winning at my local track in the summer in Galway, maybe. But were you disappointed yourself, or is the future bright for the horse?
I tell you now, he needs good ground. In my opinion, he needs good ground. And now they've done a great job in Punchestown and watering the track, but I ran a couple of horses this week now. I ran 2 horses again yesterday, and they finished in the middle of the field. I have a horse today running in the first race, and he's 4-6 favoured, and he just mightn't handle the ground as well. I never mind up to Punchestown, the ground being soft, but I cannot understand. There's trainers in Ireland that train for the summer and they want good ground, and I can't understand how come the tracks go and overwater the ground. I think he'll be a lovely horse. He'll get a couple of weeks now, and he'll go to Galway, so he will. But
that's kind of it. Kind of sums up how frustrating the game is, Shark. Is like that's the main reason. In fact, the only reason I backed that horse was on the premise that it would be decent ground. And I'm not trying to criticise Punchestown, because it's very hard to get it right, but it just goes to show things can go wrong even when on paper they're right.
I thought going to Punchestown, the horse would win. But when I got to Punchestown and walked the track, any of the owners, I said, no, the ground's too soft. You know, and now I'm not saying anything against Punchestown because, like, you're coming out of the winter, you have winter horses going to Punchestown. You have, and that's understandable. You have winter horses, but from the 1st of May, this thing of watering tracks to get it soft, like, we're all here. You don't have to, if you go to a race meeting tomorrow morning, you do not have to run your horse if the ground is too soft. You can take him out and go home. From the 1st of May, we have summer horses and there's summer trainers there. I have 40 horses for the summer this year. And like, if I had the ground that we had in Punchestown, I'd have no winners during the summer because I have summer horses and I cater for the summer. But there's nothing as bad as going to a race meeting and the sun blaming, and next thing, the ground, the jockey comes in and he says to you, oh, the ground is too soft for this, lad.
Well, hopefully we get plenty of good weather over the summer and your summer horses get to thrive. Shark,
and I just worry a bit for Sky Ace for Saturday. If they keep watering the ground, it's not a help to me now. It's definitely not a help to me. I would love to see him stop watering the ground. There's rain coming, and like when there's rain coming, there's no need to water ground.
Well, we'll definitely keep a close eye on that. It's been brilliant spending some time in your company, some brilliant insights and an incredible story. I think a lot of people will be particularly interested in the transformation that you've managed to make in your own life into an incredible level of success that you've had, and just even the stories about Rachel and the influence as well is something that I think people are definitely going to take away from this. Great spending time in your company, Shark. Thanks a million for the time.
One thing I'll say as well, like syndicates there, syndicates should never give up. Like, they're going out, they're buying a horse, let it be for 500 or let it be for $5,000. There's a good opportunity for everyone. A lot of people looking at the telly will say, oh, I can't afford to buy a horse. If they go to their local trainer or go to whoever and say, I have 500 to spend on a horse there, that man will put a syndicate of 10 people together for a horse for $5,000. And if there's 10 lads in it, everyone can afford it if it's small enough. So if you put 10 lads together, a syndicate to go there, there's no better enjoyment day in the world than going racing and seeing them colours walking around the ring. I'm involved in that horse. And there's nothing like it. There is nothing like it. And anyone looking at this today, there's a horse for everyone in the world so there. And it's not going to cost you a fortune. There's syndicates there, more than likely to be summer horses because it's hard to take on Willie and Gordon and Henry de Bromhead, all them during the winter. But during the summers, there's always a chance of having a winner. And if you're not in, you can't win.
No. So
my advice for anyone out there that's wanting to buy a horse or get involved with a horse, talk to their own trainer, talk to their local trainer. They'll put him into a horse, they'll give him a lease on a horse, or they'll sell him a horse, or they'll do something. And there's a horse for everyone in the country and it won't break you.
Well, listen, that's a perfect sales pitch to wrap this up. Thanks a million, Shark. Cheers.
Well done, thank you.
Shark Hanlon there giving us some thoughts. Friday Night Racing is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Johnny, we may get a syndicate going. A Friday Night Racing syndicate. That's next on our agenda.
Well, Shark would be well known in racing for the sales pitch and being able to get owners. And I say that in a good way because a lot of trainers would struggle because they're very good at training horses, but not so much dealing with people, and just can't kind of maybe do the PR and do the mingling at a race meeting or at the bar at an event that is so important to getting owners. But like, in fairness now, the first horse I was involved in, Operation Houdini, which was more or less set up by my late great friend John Walsh, the crack that we had, like you might kind of laugh at what Shark was saying there and say, oh, well, that's great, but the horse might be a dud. But you buy into a dream, and sometimes the dream works out, and they are the best days of your life. Like, just to be with your friends, going to race meetings, when the horse, like if the horse does eventually win, and there's a crowd of people there and they're your friends and you've gone through all this together, it is an unbelievable feeling, and you can do it relatively cheaply. Yeah, absolutely. And as soon as we can all go back to events, I hope that there's going to be a surge of people going and having that experience at our racetracks right around the country, because the industry obviously needs the help of the people. Our exciting Tote 10 to follow competition, which saw the top spot change hands on an almost weekly basis,
comes to a close for the National Hunt season, and it turns out top tipster is you. Well done, Johnny. You've beaten the complete novice with a narrow 14-point victory. It was close. You were worried at various stages. I've got to say, I could tell.
Very, very close, but kudos to you, Ger. You used a very good strategy to get that close. Because to be fair, like, I did pick good horses. Maybe my strategy wasn't quite as tuned in as yours, but yeah, we could have done a lot worse. It wasn't a bad attempt at all, and it was a very exciting race for all our various fans out there.
To celebrate, Tote will donate an extra €1,000 in your name to the Irish Injured Jockeys Fund. So along with the $2,500 that you'd already won through your charity bets, gives a total donation of $3,500, which in all fairness is not bad at all. The rivalry continues from tomorrow with the Tote 10 to follow for the flat season. You can enter for free, that the free-to-play game, or the paid game is just $5.50. Last year's winner of the paid game got over $64,000, and there are prizes for the top 500 finishers. Be sure to visit tote.ie and enter your stable before 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. We've got to get our act together and do that as well, and send in our Tote 10 to follow horses for that one. Is there anything you want to say about Punchestown before we go?
Yeah, just best of luck to Sky Ace, obviously. It's been a strange week, just like the 41 runners between Denise Foster and Henry de Bromhead, no winner. That's staggering stuff. Now, obviously, Henry would have had a couple of horses run well, but it's definitely a concern for Honeysuckle today. He's taken out Bob Ollinger. So there would be, like, if you are backing horses from either of those yards, I'd say tread a little bit with caution. And obviously, best of luck to the Irish runners in the respective guineas over the weekend. Really, really fascinating races. It's a pity that Pretty Gorgeous has been ruled out by Joseph O'Brien 2 days before the race. But he runs Thunder Moon, who I think has a massive chance of giving Declan McDonough a classic win, his first classic win in a long time, I dare say. Thunder Moon certainly wouldn't want the thunder and lightning and rain in the sky. Loves fast ground, but I think he's a massive chance, and I'd be delighted for Dec and Joseph if he could do the job tomorrow in the Guineas. All
right, and Clondezovo winning the Gold Cup at Punchestown. Like, I know, I mean, this might come back to bite me in the ass, but it's important that sometimes the British Raiders have some success.
Like, honestly, Ger, there will be people... There will definitely be Irish people cheering on the British horses in Ireland over the Irish horses. It's gotten to the stage where we totally need British racing to survive. Paul Nicholls has said this: British racing needs Irish racing needs British racing. And Irish people would not, after not long at all, they would not enjoy dominating at Cheltenham year in, year out, because that's not really the order it should be. And we need healthy British racing. And I think, a couple of British train winners this week, could be more as well. Badly needed, and they've actually really punched above their weight in terms of the numbers this week, and it was great to see. I say that genuinely. I think a lot of Irish sporting kind of hats on wanted the British to do well this week, and they did.
All right, the world has definitely turned a little bit. I'm not sure that any of us could ever have predicted that. Johnny, good stuff. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks very much.
You too, Ger.
Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. We broadcast every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock across all of our social channels. You can get us on the OTB SPORTS app. That's the best place to watch us these days. And then, of course, every Friday evening from 8 p.m. on Off the Ball on News Talk. See you next week.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.